having a dope conversation today with a young lady. We were talking about the power that comes from unlearning and relearning, and what I believe to be a superpower of human beings. I believe that human beings are supernatural creatures. I don't believe that we are as common as the rest of the living creatures on the planet. I believe that what makes us supernatural, what our superpower is, that all human beings share, is the ability to decide, the ability to reason and decide. This is a superpower, in my opinion. You can wake up one morning, lay in bed, thinking about the things you have to do, the places you have to go, the people you have to deal with, and not be particularly excited about any of those things. And then you can decide to flip that on its head, to flip it 180 degrees and attack the day. You can decide, I'm about to have a great shower, make a great cup of coffee. I'm about to get fresh. I'm about to go outside with dope energy, and I'm about to attack the day. You can decide that. The difficulty or the challenge of seeing that superpower as a superpower is that most times we decide by lack of decision. We decide by default. So instead of saying what I'm going to do, we just go about our day, and we go about it with the belief that our day is happening to us. We go about it with the belief that we're not deciding what's happening, that what's happening is being decided on, and we are experiencing the result of the decisions of life. We're just subject to those things. We are supernatural in our ability to pivot. And in our pivoting and our decision to switch lanes, switch directions, switch energies, we are now happening to the world. That's a superpower. That's something that no other living creature on the planet has. No other living creature on the planet can do what we can do. So I think it's incredibly important for us to take stock of that, because it's something that we can live with every day, all day. And I don't want you to misunderstand me that I think that this means we're in control, or turn this into a conversation about control. It's not about control. It's about capability. It's about our ability to conscientiously and intentionally contribute to our own lives and our own experiences, and then by extension contribute to the experience of the world, the experience of life as we know it in the world that we occupy. That's incredibly powerful. And we can't take that for granted if we consider ourselves to be ambitious people, if we consider ourselves to be goal-driven, if we consider ourselves to be creative, any of the things that we apply to humanity so easily. For whatever reason, we tend to simultaneously strip that from ourselves individually. You know, human beings are geniuses, but I'm not a genius. Human beings are creative, but I'm not creative. Human beings are critical thinkers, but I'm not a critical thinker. We got to stop doing all that. Stop stripping ourselves of our superpowers, because it's not something that anybody gives to us. It's innate. You were born with that ability. You decided what toys to play with as a child. For whatever reason, you had this toy in front of you and that toy in front of you, and you picked up that toy. You play with it for a couple of seconds, then you switch and pick up this toy. That's a decision made. And we go throughout our lives making decisions. We decide what level of traditional education we want to pursue. We decide what we want to do for a living. We decide who we want to be around. We decide where we want to live. We make those decisions. But again, more common than not, we believe that we're subject to other decisions. So We live where we grew up, or we live where the job opportunities are, or we hang around the people that we have familiarity with. We hang around the people and we develop relationships with people that are just in our proximity. Those aren't real decisions we're making. We're almost removing plenty of the options, many of the options that we have, and just working with a small set of options and deciding from there, or not even deciding from there. But that is a superpower that we have. We are supernatural creatures in that way, because no other living creature on the planet can do that. And what's so ill about it is that we look at the galaxy, we look at the world, the universe, through the lens of humanity. We think about life on other planets, and we don't think about life the way we think about life on planet Earth. Like, we consider trees living beings. We consider, organisms and animals and whatnot living beings. But when we think about life on other planets, we think about sentient life on other planets. We think about life forms that can think, reason, and decide the way human beings do. Not the way the rest of living creatures can do on this planet. But when we think about life and living creatures anywhere else on the planet, anywhere else in the universe, we think about it through the lens of human beings. What a waste would it be to go through life? If you go through life, if you reach adulthood and well into the maturity of adulthood, and all you have to say for adulthood and for maturity is that my parents were right, you are a waste of a generation. If that's the only conclusion you came to. Your job is to go further than they could go, because your lifespan goes further than theirs went. Your job is to expand the world, expand your understanding past what they knew and what they could show you. Have the wonderful blessing of being alive now. Like, we're alive in this time. We're conscious in this time. Whatever there is outside of this consciousness, whatever your beliefs are, have your beliefs. But we can agree that we're all conscious in this time. Like, in this now, we're conscious beings. And look at the world that we occupy. We not only have the ability by way of, the human record and, the record of what's going on in the world, whatever record you subscribe to, because we know there are different records and they're not all, factual. In fact, most of them are not purely factual. But we live in a time period where we can look back at human history, or at least a portion of human history, with detail. We can look at life stories. We can look at societies. We can look at different hemispheres of the world, different cultures of the world. And now, in this time period that we're in now, in this 2019, we can look at 2019 globally, 2018 globally, 2017 globally. We can project 2020 globally. That's something that previous generations just didn't have. We take these things for granted. We take the internet for granted and social media for granted and, all of these things because they're so readily accessible. So in the time of whoever, we look at as the people who contributed to the world and shaped the world, whether it's the Teslas and the Edisons, whether it's the Socrates and Plato's, whether it's the Martin Luther King Jr.'s and the Gandhis, Mother Teresa's, whether it's the Harriet Tubmans, whoever it is, whenever it is. We look at world history through the lens of people who shaped it. We are in a time period now, in our present consciousness, in this now, we have the opportunity to be the shapers. We don't simply have the opportunity to occupy. It's not necessarily a matter of money. It's not necessarily a matter of location. It's not necessarily a matter of gender. It's not necessarily a matter of race. We all have so much more opportunity than our predecessors had, than the people that we look at and revere for just how incredibly determined they were to do real work, whatever that work is, whether that was freeing slaves, whether that was innovating technology, whether that was working for peace. Whatever that was, the people that were so intent and determined to do that work, we look at world history through the lens of those people. Those people are the bullet points through time that we pause at and say, this was the marker for that time period. This is what the 60s was about. It revolved around these things. This is what the 1800s was about. Revolved around these things. This is what, the age of enlightenment was about. It revolved around these things. We're living in a world right now that people are going to look back at and say it revolved around these things. And it was these people that did it. And right now we might be looking at the Elon Musks and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the whoever's. But you have every opportunity to be one of those people, to shift this planet. You have every opportunity to be the lens by which people look at 2019 and say, this is why the world looked the way it looked. This is why we have the opportunities that we have, or why the world will have the opportunities it will have in 50 years and 100 years because of what you did, because of the life you lived, because of your intention and your determination and your vision and the way you executed on that as your life's work. That's incredible. But hey, I could be wrong.